So this next section is going to be lots and lots of words. Okay. We're going to talk through words. We're going to talk through terminology. If you have questions, stop me and ask. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of words to know, because just like any other industry or field, we have our own language that we speak. We have our own things that we're talking about. Is there any word on the screen right now that you guys think you need me to explain?
Would delivery system just be the tool that you're using to deliver the instruction?
Think of it, that's probably like an LMS. Or
Okay.
if you were going to do some kind of a social learning, that delivery system might be Facebook. It might be YouTube. Whatever you're going to, it might be your intranet. However you're going to deliver the content that you are giving. I would not consider like Storyline to be a delivery system. I don't.
You're using that to create.
Rise to be a delivery system. Where you put those things so that other people can have access to them, that would be your delivery system. By the way, feedback down there at the bottom can mean two things, right? It can be feedback that you are giving to me, right? Or I'm giving to you on your work. Or when you're in a course and you're going through it and you're doing your thing, what are you telling your learner? So that's also called feedback. You know, a lot of times people are lazy and yes, correct, sorry, incorrect. You know, we like to do robust feedback. You know, give me a little more. Tell me why I got it wrong. Coaching a little bit. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we understand the word deliverable? Basically everything.
That it's tangible?
Yep. Anything you're going to build. Okay. So when you've got a course, it might be, it's the actual course, it's the workbook, it's the activities, it's the assessment. All of those are deliverables. If you're doing a curriculum, your deliverable might be a series of courses, a series of workbooks. You know what I'm saying? And then distance learning and virtual learning are exactly what they sound. It's what we're doing right now. Okay. How about those? Do you guys understand the words synchronous and asynchronous learning?
Mm-hmm.
Which one are we doing right now?
Synchronous.
Correct. And if we were doing e-learning, we would be doing asynchronous. Vanessa, is that a term that comes up in your world as well?
Yeah.
Okay. We talked about ID models, right? We talked about some strategies. Tactics are the individual things that you're going to do.
Okay.
So the ID model would be, you know, I'm going to follow that flower design. The strategy is, what am I going to build? The tactic is, is the actual activities I'm going to build. So think of it just like you would like war, right? The ID model is, we're going to fight in the theater of the Eastern European, whatever. The strategy is, we're going to come around from the left. The tactic is, we're going to hit them with tanks. Individualized instruction is kind of like personalized instruction, where each person is getting something that's unique to themselves. Goals, learning objectives, and performance objectives. These are essentially synonymous things, unless you want to work with somebody that's very academic, that is going to separate these out. Learning objectives is the big thing, right? And the performance objective is the little things that get to the big thing. And then the goal is the overall purpose. But in my world, they're kind of one and the same. Learning context is where does the learning happen? Does context represents the experience that you're in? So another term might be fidelity. Heidi, you're in the simulation stuff. They use that term fidelity, right?
Completely, yeah. Would be yes, depending on how close you get, full or meet level.
Yep.
Fidelity.
How realistic the thing is, right? So if you're like in a flight simulator and the simulator is on that moving platform and there's screens in front of you and there's sounds and the buttons are flashing just like they would in a plane, it's a
Right.
very high fidelity experience, right?
Yeah.
But if I take that same
Or-
simulator and I put it on my laptop and I play Microsoft Flight Simulator and I'm
Mhm.
using the keys on my keyboard, it's a very low fidelity experience, right? Because it's nowhere
Right.
near the same thing.
Another example, if you're giving CPR to a mannequin, that would be higher level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Versus watching a video.
Yes.
Yep. So YouTube would be a very low fidelity experience.
Yeah.
Whereas if we were in a cooking class and you actually had to cook, that's a high fidelity experience because it's exactly like what you would experience in your kitchen. So does that make sense?
So that's learning context, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Would also include probably, I suppose, the systems, the technology that participants have available.
Yeah, I think so.
Would that be, yeah.
I think that's right. You know, right now we're in a very low fidelity environment. The learning context that we're in right now is not even close to what you're going to be in the real world. But once you guys download the tools and you're actually building, now it's a higher fidelity experience.
Right.
And in my opinion, this is my opinion only, I think you need to have both. I think you need to have the low fidelity experience so that people can get an understanding of what's going to happen when they get in the high fidelity experience. And then you have the high fidelity experience as well.
Multimedia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next set of words. How about these words? Anything in there that is not familiar? And the pilot has nothing to do with the flight simulator.
Would performance gaps be the same? I'm thinking in my world again, where you're seeing needs.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the needs assessment, you're
And-
using the
okay.
needs assessment to figure out what the performance gaps are,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which actually is right above it. Same with the
Mhm.
task analysis. So one of the projects I'm working on is a what we're calling a PCP. It's a product competency program. And what they're wanting us to do is they're wanting us to train up all the implementation staff, all the sales staff, all the client support staff on a new product that is going out into the market. It's a pretty complex thing, even though it might sound simple on the surface. But one of the things that I had to do was literally go talk to a whole bunch of subject matter experts across the business and say, what is it that you need all of your people to be able to do? And I had to make a list of all these things and then put a job role to the thing and start looking for the matches, right? So all the, you know, this person said this and this other person said this. So both of those groups of people need to be able to do this thing. And these job roles all need to be able to do that thing. So this piece of content that I'm going to make can apply to these people's groups under these job roles. That's what the task analysis performance gaps is, because then the next question would obviously be, well, why aren't they doing that? Why is this a problem today? Media can be anything. It doesn't have to be video, because it can be multimedia. To me, a document, a Word document, a spreadsheet, an animation, a video, audio, it's all media. A PowerPoint deck, all of it's media. I think you might find disagreement with that amongst different people, but to me, it's all media. Okay. And then a pilot is, you might have heard in the software world, a beta test.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically, let's take this out here and let's try it. What we're doing right now is a pilot to see how this thing flies.
Right.
You would do it in the office. You might grab a couple of people, stick them in a classroom or an experience that you're building, and let them go through it. Sometimes that pilot is a prototype, a minimum viable product where it's really, really low quality, because you don't want to spend a lot of time developing something before you figure out if it's going to even work.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
all of this is considered media, Barry?
No. All of these words are not media. No.
Okay.
No. The content that I can provide
is
media.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Could any job aid be a pilot? Could you create a pilot out of any job aid, like just to
Sure.
test it out and see how it goes?
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, if it's certainly, you know, like I might take all these words and put some definitions on them, throw them on a piece of paper, hand it to you guys and say, does this make sense?
Let's see how this goes.
Yeah, that's a pilot,
Mhm.
right, for what you're talking about. But if I make it pretty, now we're in another pilot, right? Does it still make sense if have I overcomplicated it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I make it 4 pages of is it more complicated, right? Had I put all of these words on one screen, y'all would have killed me. And the pilot would have failed in that sense, and I'd have to go back and redesign. And then pre and post test, you guys all probably know what that is. Here's some more. I'm going to bet that there's at least one word on here you guys have no idea what it is.
Scorm.
The second bullet. Yep, that
Yep.
bullet right there. I don't even want to
Me
say
neither.
it.
Okay, so SCORM is a communication method. I do not know what it stands for. It's an acronym and I don't know what it stands for, but it's the way that a piece of content speaks to the learning management system. You'll hear SCORM as in it's a SCORM wrapper. Okay, so think of it as an envelope, a Ziploc bag. You take your piece of content, you put it inside that bag, you publish that bag with the thing in it into the LMS. Now, whatever score you get in your e-learning course or whatever it is that's in there can tell the LMS that it's been completed. Here's what the score is. It basically passes data back and forth to the LMS.
Oh, communicate with the LMS. Okay.
So when you are in a tool like Storyline or Rise or Captivate, and you go to the publish page, you'll probably see something around SCORM because there's different versions of it. You might even see a thing out there if you're doing research online called the X API. You might see a thing called Tin Can. Those are new versions of SCORM. Okay. X API was created because there's stuff out there today that people can do that were not around in 2000 and whatever, 2001, 2002, when SCORM had its last iteration. I think it might have been around 2004. So for example, your students could, maybe you tell them, hey, I need you to go read this blog, watch this video on YouTube, and go listen to this podcast. And if you do those 3 things, I'm going to give you credit. In the olden days, there was no way to put that in the LMS.
Right.
Because they're external, right? They don't even talk to the LMS. The LMS has no idea. Oh, and maybe you're going to go to a Facebook group and you're going to make some comments. So the new version, XAPI, allows those things to be real. You can create elements inside of the LMS that can talk to that kind of stuff. Not all LMSs can handle that. So if you hear them talking about that, that's what it is. It's all tied to this SCORM thing and the ability for stuff to talk to the LMS.
Mm-hmm.
LMS being a learning management system. And there are all variations on that. For the educators in the room, talk to me about formative and summative assessments. You know what those
Formative
are?
are those little pre-checks along the way towards your objective, and then your summative is the end task.
Yeah, absolutely. In all fairness, those are not terms I hear a lot of. I hear it described more like you just did, but it's the same thing.
Mhm.
Let's talk about the trainer, facilitator, instructor. Are those 3 things the same thing?
No.
I don't think so,
Okay, why not?
but they connect, of course. On my understanding, the facilitator is the person that helps you to find the resources and put it together, organize it, put it in order, and help you to build up your learning experience. Of course, facilitated a lot of resources around you.
Yes.
That's my understanding
That is
of.
what a facilitator is.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the trainer it can be a facilitator, and that will be a blessing though, but the trainer helps you to learn a task, a procedure, or a process that you need to be trained in, like give you a specific information and submit, the knowledge with his experience, of course, for you to learn a process,
Okay.
or to do your job better sometimes, or also not only in the job, but whatever learning experience that you are trying to get information from a trainer. And I believe that the instructor give you more like the work instruction.
The word that resonated the most was facilitator, because in my last year, they wanted teachers and educators to be facilitators of knowledge and content. And so we're not, shoving knowledge into students, we're guiding them along the process.
Right, that's that flipped classroom, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we're like the tour guide and just helping them along the way.
Yep.
As far as trainer, I want to say someone that didn't create the learning material, the content. They're just a vehicle and being that direct instructor and giving you the knowledge, like front loading, a lot of front loading.
That's an interesting take. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Yeah, trainer and instructor are very synonymous in that, where they're
They are
just
very
front
similar.
loading front loading information. And
Yep.
if you have a question, ask me type thing.
Yep. When I think of an instructor, I think of what you might call a sage on a stage. The person that's standing at the front and they're
Like a TED Talk, TED Talk.
Yeah, or at a conference, you've got somebody at the front that is giving a presentation. To me, that's what an instructor is. I think a trainer is a little bit of a hybrid of that. And then I think the facilitator is further at the other end, where they are probably not even a subject matter expert. They're just facilitating discussion amongst people and guiding to the resources and things. What am I doing right now? Am I training? Am I facilitating? Or am I an instructor?
I'd say all three.
I think yes.
Okay.
I think you're doing a lot of facilitation.
Okay, good. That's what I want to be doing. I am a subject matter expert, but I would prefer to have you guys talk to me because you guys come to the table with experience as well. As we move forward, web-based training, that one is kind of an older term, older being, like 10 years old. And we don't hear that very much anymore. But it's out there. If you hear WBT, you might also hear CBT, which is computer-based training. That was like the old DVDs that you'd put in and they'd play.
You still see that sometimes in job descriptions.
Yeah.
And it gives you an idea of what's going on in that organization.
Yeah, if you see that in a job description, I would absolutely ask the question, what is that? Do you just mean e-learning? Or is there something else that you're thinking of that means? Because it is an older term, and you might want to raise your arm on that one and go, or your little antenna and say, maybe these are a little bit older thinking folks.